Welcome to Autism Actually Speaking. I'm Nathan Selove.
And I'm Raymond Selove, also known by some as Daddy.
Yep. I stopped calling you daddy when I was like 8 years old.
What made
Also Zoomers have kind of ruined the word daddy.
what made you think I was talking about you?
Oh God. Oh God. So so welcome back to the channel. This will be the first video that I've released in quite a while, and we're gonna be trying a new format. I've done videos in the past about specific subjects where I just kind of ramble on about things, but I I kind of enjoy the format more of it being more of a discussion. So we're gonna do a trial run with a few videos where I'm just gonna be talking to my dad about various different autism related issues, and we'll see how well that's received. And speaking of daddies, dad, our
So
first sub
are you gonna leave that intro in there, or are you
Oh yeah,
gonna
I'm
edit
leaving
that?
that. I'm leaving
Okay.
that. I'm leaving that. I am leaving that. We're PG-13 on this channel.
All right.
We're PG-13. So uh so today we're going to be talking about parenthood and autism, specifically being a parent who is autistic. And one of the reasons why I think that it's important for us to talk about this is because there is so little information out there that is easily available and easy to find about being a parent on the autism spectrum. Like my plan was to try to find some type of statistic about what percentage of parents are on the autism spectrum as kind of like a attention getter in this. And so I Googled autism rates among parents, and the first result that came up was a result where the highlighted bit is the chance of having ASD for children born to parents who are in their 30s is up to 10% higher than parents who are 25 to 29. That's not what I asked.
So you just asked Google, you didn't ask ChatGPT?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I just Googled it. Yeah. So, like, that was the first
Didn't
result.
get it at all.
Yeah. The second result was like the prevalence of parent reported autism. So, how prevalent autism is that is as reported by parents. The next one is another article about the link between parental age and autism. Um, Another one about parent reporting of autism. Another about parental age. An Autism Speaks article about the prevalence of autism among children. Another a CDC article about the prevalence of autism among children. Like
So
this is a
this
subject
is
that's
this
yeah,
is something we've talked about before on your channel. This infantilization of autism.
yeah,
Um, and it's not as bad as it used to be. I remember 20 years ago, you could not find a published sentence with the word autism that didn't also have the word child or children.
yeah,
It was, and one of the things that we used to do when we would do some public presentations is we would tell people we grow up.
yeah,
And it was some kind of radical thing to say we
yeah,
grow up, we
yeah.
become adults.
What do
And
they think happens when we turn 18? We just like, it's like Thanos blip.
well, and so in our presentations, one of the things we used to do is present a lot of genetic data
Yeah.
about where autism comes from, and to skip all the data, the result is basically if you've got a child with autism, you've got one or both parents has it too, whether or not it's been diagnosed, because those genes have to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So autistic parents are just as common as autistic children.
Yeah.
So why the hell do people not
Yeah.
realize this?
Well,
Um,
and this is definitely a place that's going to need to be studied more and more because I think a huge reason why you often don't have that like we don't often think about parents being autistic is because, you know, when I was a kid, people that were parental age were kids back when autism meant, you know, you couldn't talk. Like
right.
the spectrum was not as wide as it is today. Now it's a lot wider, which means that like as people like my generation who uh you know who were diagnosed around the time where that spectrum had been widened are now becoming the age of parents, you're going to see a lot more in statistics in statistics you're going to see a lot more prevalence of parents on the autism spectrum. So you know it should have been studied back then, of course, but it should especially be studied now.
So when I was a child, I met a few kids who were diagnosed with autism, but I couldn't get that diagnosis because if you could speak,
Yeah.
you didn't get the diagnosis of autism at that point. But as a retired professor of anatomy and physiology, I want to assure everyone that you do not have to be able to speak in order to have children. That isn't actually a requirement. That's not how it works.
You know, that's not exactly where I thought you were going with that, but I'm kind of glad that that's where you went with that.
Yeah. I mean, speaking might make it easier in some ways, but not necessary.
Yeah, I thought you were about to use your credentials as a professor of anatomy and physiology as your credentials for having autism.
Oh, no. Although, you know, there is a high rate of autism among scientists, so a
Yeah,
little higher among the engineers and mathematicians than among the biologists.
yeah,
But among the biologists, anatomy and physiology is one of those areas that requires so much memory
yeah.
that it really helps to be autistic.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, in a lot of ways, being a communication professor actually strangely does kind of benefit from being autistic. I mean, that all is a subject for another episode, but it has been interesting how much like it's been a hindrance, but it's also been kind of nice because of the memory. Um, but that's a subject for another episode. Um, in terms of being a parent, so with all of this being said, all of the fact that this is something that's not it's not studied as much, that's not talked about, I figured that it was a good idea for two parents who are on the autism spectrum to talk a little bit about it. I have had my kid. I don't remember if I don't remember when I posted my last video actually. I think it was right before we had her. But I am now a father of
You you actually became a father at about the same time that I became a grandfather.
yeah, actually it was exactly the same time, Dad.
Yeah.
It was to the
Although you
second.
you found out slightly before I did.
I did. I was kind of there when it happened.
Yeah.
But I texted you very quickly
I
afterwards.
and I was rushing to get
Yeah.
there.
So I think that there are some, you know, I think my father and I probably give two uh pretty interesting perspectives because I'm coming at it from the perspective of a parent who is brand spanking new. My
Thinking.
daughter,
Um,
not
yeah, I'm gonna recommend against spanking.
I I we don't
What
do
what is
corporal punishment. We don't do
what
corporal punishment.
what is she, 6 months old? Come on, buddy.
Almost 7 months. Yeah. We don't do corporal punishment. We don't do corporal punishment. But yeah, my daughter's about 6 months, almost 7 months old. And I know that I've already noticed that there are definitely areas in which being an autistic who is a parent comes with unique challenges, especially
So
given the fact that babies are not sensory friendly.
no, that first year of parenthood is incredibly difficult for everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the sleep deprivation, and sleep deprivation is really bad for neurological functioning.
Yeah.
Um, it tends to make all neurological diversity more difficult, right? If you have a learning disability of some type, sleep deprivation makes it worse.
Yeah.
Anxiety also makes it worse.
Yeah.
Um, you know, calm, relaxed, plenty of sleep, not hungry. Those all make these things easier.
Yeah.
And all of those things are hard when you've got a brand new child.
Yes.
They don't let you sleep, they don't let you eat, they don't let you at your regular time. They really interfere with your routines.
Yeah.
Um, Partly because they have their own routines
Yeah.
that you end up having to adapt to, and partly because they don't have a routine
Well,
because
that's
they
the thing.
just haven't developed it yet.
They do have a routine. It's just a routine that changes on a whim and they don't give you any notice, you know? Like as soon as it's like I've described parenthood as kind of like a game of whack-a-mole where as soon as you kind of settle into something that is familiar with the baby, they reach another developmental milestone and suddenly you have to do things completely differently.
Yeah,
And then
yeah. You
and you don't know when. So for the first like few months of my daughter's life, we had this routine where uh almost every single day we would have her take a 3 hour nap because at that age you want to have a good long stretches of naps during the day. And so what I would do was I would use this Moby wrap and I would have her up against my chest and I would just kind of sit at my computer while she was asleep on my chest for 3 hours a day. And that worked pretty well. Like, uh it
and you
was
foolishly got used to that and
and
thought
I
that it might
foolishly got
keep
used to
going.
that. And then eventually she was like, "What? You're trying to make me sleep?" And it got to the point where we couldn't do that anymore. And I've had to adjust a bunch of different times, do different things. Like we have a different nap routine now where I basically take her around the basement in in a carrier and I walk around for a little bit and then finally she'll go to sleep. But that's probably going to change too. So kids are not friendly to autistic routines and they're not sensory friendly because of the crying.
So it's not just crying. Okay, there's the sound. Um, but some of the textures involved in parenthood can be pretty challenging too. Um, Now, your breast milk diapers are not nearly as bad as real food, so, expect this part to get worse. And also, breast milk vomit isn't that bad, but the vomit will get worse too with real food.
Yeah.
Um, there are smells,
Yeah.
textures, and the noise. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Um, and this is actually this is an adaptive thing. Babies' cries are at a frequency that our brains are specifically tuned to not be able to deal with.
Yeah.
Um, because a baby has to have a way of actually getting attention, and if you can tune it out,
Yeah.
then the baby dies.
Yeah.
We are the result of millions of years of babies not being able to be ignored.
Yeah.
And that that can be really difficult, but it is a relatively short period. It doesn't feel short from where you are right now. I
Oh
know
no.
that.
Oh no. It's still like
from
I'm
where
still in the place where it feels like she's going to be
from
a
where
baby
I am,
forever.
from where I am, I it's a short period of time
Yeah.
and it gets better. Unfortunately, it doesn't get better at month 7 or 8.
It doesn't,
No, it takes longer than that.
does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, well, here's the question then. Because you have been a parent for almost as long as I've been alive. Not quite a little bit longer, about 3 years
Longer.
longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
But I've been there for most of it. And we've had conversations about times in which, maybe you could have been more patient as a parent.
Patience
Um,
is difficult.
Patience is difficult, and I'm understanding that right now. Like I'm very much understand. Like to give you an example, just today, she broke her first dish.
Really?
Yeah, Jess was holding her, and she just reached out her hand and grabbed a dish that was on the table and just pulled it to the floor, and it shattered. Um, and I actually like that was something that you always got really upset about whenever a dish broke or a glass broke. Now, to be fair, I did that a lot because I was clumsy as hell.
Yeah.
Um,
And as a parent, you just have to realize you're going to lose a bunch of dishes,
yeah, yeah,
and you just have to accept that. That was hard for me to accept.
yeah,
What I remember from those incidents is me saying in response to it, I really wish you hadn't done
yep, yep. And I actually found myself saying that too,
that.
and think
Oh,
and thinking, oh God, I can't, because like,
yeah.
because like, you know, what that was in a lot of ways that was kind of the equivalence of I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Uh,
So 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 like it's better than, it's better than some things, but like it's one of those things where, you know, you're going to make mistakes like when you're a parent. Um
yes,
because things just happen in the heat of the moment.
this was a key piece of my advice to you on becoming a parent was
Yeah.
um, attempting to not make mistakes is unrealistic. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. Um, you just so go ahead and accept that you're going to make mistakes and you're going to completely screw up your kid, and decide that you're okay with that. Um, try your try your best to make the mistakes that are not going to be as
Yeah.
horrendous. Um, Having said that, we talked about um, the joke in the family about our New Year's resolutions and how year after year I kept resolving that I was going to have more patience with my children because I knew it was a problem and I knew I had to do better, but I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And eventually I I realized after I don't know how many years of trying to resolve to have more patience, I stopped making that resolution and I made a resolution that I was going to try to be aware of how much patience I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a lot better. Um, it didn't give me more patience, but I did start to become aware of how much patience I had. And so I was able to um, figure out before I lost my patience
Yeah.
and take a break.
Yeah. And
Shelly
that's
and I would kind of tag team. There were times that Shelly was home with you guys all day, and I would come back from work, and Shelly would tag me in, and she'd tag out, and she'd go
yeah.
running off into the woods to be by herself for a
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
and unwind. And I did the same thing. When I started being aware of my patients so that I could just get away from it before it was a problem, that really helped a lot.
Yeah. Um and we're almost out of time, but I do just want to I do just want to reiterate that uh and this is of course this becomes more difficult if you are a single parent,
Oh
which
God.
I would just like to say I have mad respect for single parents. Like I don't know how you do it. Um, it's amazing. But
The
like,
closest I ever came to single parenthood was when Shelley would go away for a weekend for a
yeah,
conference and leave me with the two boys. And oh my God, by the time she would get back, I would have so much respect for my single parent students, how they managed to
yeah,
do that. And I am so glad that I didn't have to do that.
yeah. Like so if you are a parent who has a partner, um being aware of your first off, you're not a bad person if you get annoyed with a baby. Like I just want to make that clear. Sometimes it might feel like on the surface like this is a tiny vulnerable child
It's not their
and
fault.
and I shouldn't be screaming at, yeah, it's not their fault. It's not I
It
shouldn't be
really isn't their
angry.
fault, but it's
I sh
still
but it's
really
still
difficult.
really difficult. And you're going to be a lot healthier if you're able to recognize when you've reached your limit, and when you need to just be like, listen, I need to go take some time. Can you hold the kid for a little bit? That's the big thing that I would say you probably need to look at. Um, so that is all we had time have time for today's video. So that is today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do like this video, please let us know. If you're a parent who is on the autism spectrum, uh, leave a comment down below, talk about some of your own tips, some of your own experiences. I always like when the comment sections of my videos kind of become their own little community where people
Yeah,
can swap information.
ask questions and answer each other's questions.
Yeah.
Give advice. It really helps to get advice from a lot of different people. In autism, not every technique works for every person, but if it's worked for somebody, there's a good chance there'll be somebody else out there that it might work
Yes.
for too. And
Yes.
if you get enough suggestions, one of them's going to work for you.
Yep. Yep. Um, and if you like this format of a video, let us know. This is a trial run. This sort of podcast-esque style that we're experimenting with. Let us know what you think about the style. If you want to see more videos, there's going to be at least 3 within the next few weeks that we're going to be posting, or at least 3 counting this one. So let us know. And thank you so much for watching, and you will see us in the next one.